All right, going to call a special meeting of council to order for Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. Approval of the agenda. Council Norbury.
That the June 21st, 2023 special council meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Carried. New business 3.1, Business Walk 2023. Report dated June 12th, 2023 from the Director of Economic Development and Tourism regarding the Business Walk 2023. Recommendation, Council Norbury.
That council receives this report for discussion.
Seconder, Councillor Dussault. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So thank you to staff and everyone who participated to gather some information from our businesses to see how we're doing. I was surprised to see that so many businesses felt that we were not business friendly. So I'm curious if they had any other feedback beyond what's listed in the future considerations and initiatives on why they may think that we are not business friendly. If we got any specific feedback.
Mr. Woodward.
Ms. Olson, would you please respond to that?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I did take another look through the Business Walk surveys today just to get some specific points on that 84% statistic. So the question, the way it was worded was, what do you like most about doing business in Tumbler Ridge? And the business-friendly local government kind of ranked last on that question. So some of the notes were to keep working towards better connectivity, so lack of infrastructure, broadband. There was notes about paved routes from Alberta could bring in more business. Quite a few mentioned that there could be simpler, more user-friendly processes, so things such as the business license process, and if the business licenses could be done online, as some people are possibly working during the day, so just having some more easily accessible documents like that. Other points listed were just some lack of forward thinking, red tape around processes, zoning restrictions, and just sometimes a lack of engagement working together with the district and partnerships.
Follow-up, Council Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. Thank you, Ms. Olson, for that explanation, because it definitely paints a little bit of a different picture than we're unfriendly. I was kind of curious on how we can do better, and those are some definite good suggestions. And the way you explained it with the how the ranking system, it may paint a picture that is not reflective of that. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Council Norbury. Any more questions, discussion? Just a couple of comments. I want to thank the Councillor Noxana, Councillor Julik, Councillor Dussault, and Councillor Clickash that were able to make time and themselves available to do that business-to-business walk. I think it's really important when we can get council involved as well. So thank you guys that can make that. And again, I will thank staff for that, because I thought the 84%, I thought, to me, the district does a lot. Or to me, I believe council is very open to attracting new business and supporting new businesses coming to town when you see an 84% like that. But understanding how the ranking worked, and that's why that 84% showed up. But I think there is some good takeaways. Councilor Norbury mentioned that, but is maybe looking at an online concept for business licenses and stuff. And I guess with our new website, is that a possibility? Mr. Woodward.
I can respond to that. I think with the new website that we're going to be having, it will give us a lot of access to a lot more information, and it'll also allow the people in the community a lot more access to our website as well. And they can refer information like that to us.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, moving on to 3.2, Child Task Force Terms of Reference, report dated June 21st, 2023 from the Director of Corporate Services regarding Child Task Force Terms of Reference. A recommendation. Councillor Julik.
The council adopts the Tumbler Ridge Childcare Task Force terms of reference as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Dussault. Discussion. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalkan. Thank you to staff for taking this back and bringing it back for us. I think the change of district staff as required is appropriate to update council. The task force, I think our workload is light currently, so we will likely only be needing the use of one district staff. So if the way it was worded before, this is good. I'm happy with this. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any more discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Councillor Quicklash, I know you're on Zoom. If you're opposed, if you can just speak that if you're opposed. I don't need if you're in favor, just if you oppose when we're calling the vote, if you can just make it known that you're opposed if you are opposed. Okay, carried. 3.3 UBCM Minister Meetings, report dated June 21st, 2023, from the Director of Corporate Services regarding UBCM Minister Meetings. Recommendation, please, Councillor Norbury.
That council receives the UBCM ministry meeting request report for discussion.
Seconder, Councillor Julik, all in favor? Carried. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalkan. I'll go one at a time versus giving you my list of 10. First up, I'd like for us to meet with the Ministries of Children and Family Development, specifically on youth with support needs, speech therapy, and potential autism support as well.
Okay. Councillor Julik.
So I guess for me, there's also sorry, let me go back here, because I agree with that. Sorry, I was in a different one. I'm thinking mental health, but that doesn't fall under that one, so I'm totally okay with that as well. Like, I think that there's a need for that, and I forget that those don't fall under the health. Yeah, so yes, we're definitely shortage of those, and I don't know what that looks like, but.
So are we wanting to add mental health as well?
Yeah, and that's further in, and I imagine if Councillor Norbury has 10, he likely has that, no?
No, I think, again, it's for all of council, so we're going to get to a list. If we're going to have a whole bunch of minister meetings on there, then it's going to have to come to a selection. Again, I think we need to keep it around the 8 mark. I really don't want to see us, again, it's speed dating. We also have other things to attend at the UBCM, and a lot of times when you meet with the ministers, and there's a huge amount, you do not get to attend some of the conferences, and lots of them are really good, especially with new council going down. So I think we need to be careful how many ministers we look to meet with or other agencies. Councillor Julik.
So I'm in agreement with Councillor Norbury, and while you say 8, I'm with that as well. So if we could have staff maybe write down where we're at for the end, and then we can start to rank them.
Yeah, I would think staff's writing them down as we talk.
Okay. For me, child, youth, and mental health policy, because we don't have those services easily accessible for our youth in town.
Okay, I'm going to throw a couple out there. I'm going to throw out Minister of Energy, Mines, and Low Carbon Innovation. And the other one I'm going to throw out there is Minister of Environment and Climate Change Strategy. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalkan. So another one that I have is the Ministry of Citizen Services. I'd like to hit them up again about high-speed internet, specifically about better funding streams or a larger funding stream that can help us overcome this large potential bill that TELUS proposed to us, but funding streams for high-speed internet.
Councillor Noxano.
I know we're all still waiting to hear if the YMCA will get funding for their proposed childcare spaces grant, but I think that we should keep them in mind just in case the Ministry of Education and Child, it used to be Child Development, but yes.
Education and childcare.
Just because if we do not get that or it's not announced, I'd like to know why.
Okay, fair enough. Totally agree. Councillor Julik.
I also, with Councillor Norbury, I like the idea of the citizen services. For me, we don't have enough connections in town. We have people who move into town and they aren't able to connect to the internet because TELUS doesn't have any more whatever for them. And then affordability, because there's folks in town that can't afford it. And then for me, Service BC possibly, if there's a possibility, it's not high on my list, but making those Service BC services more available to our citizens.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to throw out Ministry of Forest. And I think that's something with our community forest and Council Norbury. I mean, I think that'll be something maybe you can speak to in regards. I'm going to take a minute. Councillor Clickash, are you able to go on to mute and be easily accessible of taking off mute? You just get a bunch of echo back from your computer. Okay, and if you just want to, if you need some, if you want to say something, Councillor Clickash, please feel free to interrupt and we'll go to you. But yeah, Ministry of Forestry, and I just look to Councillor Norbury, was sitting on the community forest in regards to it. And I understand, you know, obviously low timber costs right now. Maybe that's why you guys aren't cutting. But I know there was a concern previous. The last UBCM we attended was in regards to stumpage and all that. Is that still a concern on the community forest side?
So with stumpage, that's still a looming issue that they haven't made a decision either way on. So I don't know if council is aware of the whole stumpage issue, but there is requests from other organizations to have lower stumpage rates, and the province is taking a full look at stumpage rates, and we as a community forest are concerned about that rate going up. And if that does go up, we will be out of business. So they haven't made a decision on that, but if I could speak to your Ministry of Forest comment, I think it would be a good idea for us to talk to them about more wildfire mitigation strategies, and with that potential funding to allow us to do that. In previous, the community forest has been able to do some wildfire prescriptions in the area, but that was when we could break even. At this point in time, the forecasts and quotes we've received from forestry companies, we would not be able to break even if we did any prescriptions. So maybe that's something we could talk to the ministry about, if they can provide funding and we can approach forestry companies directly, or if they can work out a deal with us with some forestry companies to perform wildfire prescriptions. I think that would be a good ask.
Okay. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Just in conjunction with that, there's an emergency management and climate readiness. Would that not be on the list for talking about sort of mitigation, and might be able to help with that?
Yeah, and I agree. That's one that we should be talking to as well. That's the minister that had reached out to us during the forest fire. Don't want to speak out of turn, but we do have a resolution that will be coming to the PRD at our next regular PRD meeting. A resolution I was putting on the floor before I got called back to Tumble Ridge. So I would hope, if that is supported by the directors of the PRD, they would also be looking at meeting with that minister, knowing that we are putting a resolution on the floor at the UBCM, and making her aware that it's coming. So, and that would be Minister of Forestry. It'll affect both those ministers, or possibly could if it's accepted. So, but it doesn't hurt to add it, Councillor Hoffman. If you want to add it, you can add it, and then, like I said again, we can start discussing where we're at with these numbers, because I guarantee we might as well just say we want to meet with every minister, and then we dwindle it down, because that's about where we're at. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure that council are aware that when you meet with the ministries, that we give them as much information as possible, so that when we come to meet with them, they're prepared with all the responses. Because if it's just general, they'll see us, but we're not getting the responses that we're looking for. So we need the detail, make sure that they know exactly what we're asking.
Yeah, 100%. Totally agree with you. Okay. Councillor Hoffman.
I just limiting my choices based on the fact that I'm not going to be there myself, but I do think for what's been going on that is something we should consider today, the Emergency Management and Climate Ministry.
Okay. Councillor Dussault.
Mine would be the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, not only for adults, but for youth as well. Because we do have a problem, and we need some resources for that
Okay.
in our town.
Okay. Councillor Julik.
I would like to see possibly senior services, as I see here, responsibility for home health, long-term care, and assisted living policy development and implementation. I think that we have, and maybe this is where we find out, like, I feel like we have a fairly big population of seniors in our community with not a lot of resources for them. And I know when we talked about the BC housing piece, that assisted living was part of that conversation. So I won't go into it too much, because what I'm understanding here is we're kind of throwing these all out and then we're going to go through them one by one and decide, Mr. Mayor? All right. So the other one while we're doing that would be BC housing. Just wanting to make sure we follow up and what kind of plans do they have for Tumbler Ridge. That would be my big oversight. And then the other thing is transportation. Out of town. So I was talking to some seniors this week, and one of the things they talked about is there is a bus that will take you from Dawson to Chetwynd to get on the bus to go to Prince George. But there isn't one that will come from Tumbler Ridge. And I don't know if that's the e-bus. I apologize because I have not had enough time to do the research, and I don't think BC Transit falls under there, so I'm not sure if that would be in the Ministry of Health, and I can try and suss that out later. But yeah, I just thought maybe one of Mr. Woodward or Ms. Torville might have the answer to that. So anyways, that's it for me, and then I'm happy to beef those answers up when we narrow it down.
Councillor Noxana.
I can actually speak to the intercommunity transportation. We just spoke about it at our NDIT meeting last week. There's a survey out for the public. If anybody wants to fill it out, I can send you the, I think I've already sent it to your district emails. But they are looking at what is there and what needs to be done, and also the booking platforms for these systems that are in place. So if we can book from Dawson to Chetwynd, well, how do you book from Chetwynd to there? If there's one integrated system, then let's figure it out. And then, of course, addressing issues like Tumbler, who has no transportation. So it's coming. It's a process. I could talk to you more about it later if you want. I could talk now if you want, but I feel like this isn't the place.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Check out the NDIT website. They have lots of info.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and as well as PRD is also working through that, and it's with NDIT.
Absolutely.
So the PRD is looking at it as a region, not by municipality, but for the whole Peace region, and it was taken back to the NDIT through them. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. Since we are talking about busing, I think that may be an opportunity for us to bring that up with Ministry of Health, as you know, I think a lot of people have need for a potential shuttle service to access the BC Bus North or the medical bus system. You know, I think that falls under the Ministry of Health. I know when they're talking about their strategy of healthcare years ago, they said we're going to have more centralized locations for better care, and it's up to the residents to figure out how to get there. And I think that if that's their strategy, they need to step up to the plate with the next part, and that's getting on there. But so moving on with ministries, I'd like to, maybe this is one of the ones I could knock off, but I'll throw it out there anyways. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs, specifically the PMP program, about how we can get our local organizations involved to access credentialed workers. And then I'd like to ask them again how they're doing with their transferring of skilled persons credentials so they can operate in Canada. It's important in our day and age to have that process smooth and quick. And last year they said that they opened it up, but they haven't had any participants and they haven't had any results on how it went. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I know Dale Bumstead was pulling another meeting together in Dawson Creek in regards to anybody that had credentials from other countries. And I'm not sure when that meeting was going to happen, but he was trying to do it again so he could have those numbers to take or send off to the government. I'm going to mention one last one for myself, and that's going to be the Minister of Tourism and Arts, Culture and Sports. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I'd like to meet with the Ministry of Post-Secondary Education, specifically about ECEs and their interest for offering a program similar to what they offer for medical students, nursing students going to school. They will pay them to go to school. I'd like to see if there's an option or a flavor for them doing that for ECEs. And then lastly, back to our transportation, some specific asks I'd like to ask them. Again, paving of the boundary. We'll hit them every year. 25, questions about if they have plans to finish the paving of the route to Dawson there. And then, the follow-up to your question last year, Mayor Kukalka, was brush clearing, if they have a plan for us.
Yeah, so I think some of that one there, I think we have to wait back. So we've just said a follow-up back to Modi since we met in Victoria. And one was the brushing, because they started at Dawson, and then they when we were down in Victoria, they said, you're right there, you got the boots on the ground, like, is there a better starting point? And I believe the starting point should be from Tumbler Ridge towards Dawson. They did the farmland, very little bush there along their road to clear, so I think we got to wait for that follow-up come instead of adding it to the ministry, and same with the paving of the 52 East. That was part of the meeting in Victoria. So I think we got to wait to that, and then we've also followed up. I know Karen has sent it off, but in regards to sloughing on at the we call it the whip-to-dos, but kilometer 43. So I think that we just got to hear back from them before we just keep meeting with them. And I think that comes up to is maybe we need to draft a letter instead of meeting with the ministry in regards to ECE thing. We actually asked that last year at the UBCM. With really no follow-up, and I think it's tough when it's an election year. Are you going to be there next year when you come to the UBCM, or are you not going to get reelected? So did they actually take that and work on that? So maybe we should just follow up with an email saying that you and I were reelected, and we have other counterparts here, and we want to know what was discussed after our UBCM meeting in regards to the ECE program that we mentioned about the nurses not get paid to go, but the ECEs didn't, and just see what the follow-up is. Again, I think the list is probably about 14. I tried counting in my head, but I lost track of as we threw out a bunch of ministries. But again, I think we need to keep it short and just be careful how many we try to meet with. Councillor Kakash.
Yes, Your Worship. I'd like to deal with the Housing Ministry of Housing. I don't know if we've heard anything back from BC Housing in regard to Chamberlain, and we should get on with this too as well. I think housing is really important here in Tumbler Ridge right now. We got a shortage. People are wandering around looking for houses, but some of them aren't able to get the mortgage qualification, and yet they have an existing job with the mine. So I think it's really important that we all get behind the housing.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And, we can throw that on the list and then wait for the follow-up. So we have sent follow-ups. Okay, maybe we haven't sent them. They're on their way. We were evacuated, so I know staff were doing other jobs. So that is one ministry that we have been following up with or sending it out, was with the Minister of Housing, but as well as BC Housing, to find out what happened from the meeting here in Tumbler Ridge, when BC Housing expects to be back to meet with our residents in regards to what we think they think the need is, on what kind of accessible housing we need in regards to low-income housing. So whether that's, 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms and stuff like that, but as well as what was going to happen with Chamberlain and where we sat with that one. The other questions that came up at that meeting was the non-repairs of Hartford Court. Now, my understanding from a few residents, they have seen some maintenance being done there. But again, I think we need to follow up, and I know that follow-up's happening. I think we can add it to the list, and then we can, we can send it out. We can always cancel it if we're getting the proper follow-up information back from the ministry as well as BC Housing. We just got to let them answer those back. I think, happened on this side, we got busy with the wildfire and stuff previous. So I know the follow-up is going to them. So to me, we can add them to the list, Councillor Klickash, and then just, if we get here the follow-up, we can always take them off the list from the UBCM.
Yeah, okay.
Does that sound okay? Okay.
Yep, good.
Okay, is council good now? Can staff tell us how many we have? Mr. Woodward?
You got 'em? I got 15, but I'm not sure if it's accurate. Okay.
Okay.
15, but I'm not sure.
Go ahead, Ms. Curry, and give us the next information, please.
Okay, so far, Mayor and Council, I have, as you're going through it, I have the Ministry of Children and Family Development you would like to meet with. I have Ministry of Citizen Services, Ministry of Education and Childcare, Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, Ministry of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation, I think Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy, I think that was one. Finance, Ministry of Forest, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Housing, and Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, Ministry of Municipal Affairs, Ministry of Post-Secondary Education and Future Skills, Ministry of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport, Ministry of Transportation, and that's it so far. That's all I captured.
Okay, so I apologize. I didn't have my notepad ready. Can we start from the top?
Okay, sorry.
No, it's not your fault.
Okay. Again, we'll go through it. Ministry of Children and Family Development, Ministry of Citizen Services, Ministry of Education and Childcare, Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, Ministry of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation, Ministry of Forest, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Housing, Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, Ministry of Municipal Affairs, and Ministry of Post-Secondary Education and Future Skills, and Ministry of Tourism, Arts, Culture, Sport, Transportation and Infrastructure, and seems to be it so far. That's it, what I got.
What do you got? 13. So I was close. I was one off. Not bad. What do y'all have then? I mean, did she miss one? What do you got?
We got Children and Family, Citizen Services. Sorry, I have Children and Family, Citizen Services, Ministry of Education and Childcare, Emergency Management, Energy and Mines, Climate Change, Forest, Health, Housing, Mental Health, Municipal Affairs, Post-Sec, Tourism, and Transportation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah. All right. So now we have the fun time of trying to take some of these off, yes. Councilor Norberry?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. If we are looking to make cuts, I'll make a suggestion from one of my recommendations, and that was the post-secondary education and future skills. I would like to, we can probably take that one off. Nope, municipal affairs, excuse me, about the PMP program. I think, that's a nice to have, but if we're stretched on time, I think that's a nice to have, not a need, so. I recommend we take that one off.
Okay, so I think, can we have two lists? So we're going to take one off, so we're going to take that off. Can we put that on a second list? And the reason I asked that, I understand the deadline is June 30th, but if we select 8 and only get responses from 5 and we have 3 on the list that we cut off or 8 on the list, then we'll go, after we cut some of these off, we'll prioritize those ones. And then that way, if a ministry can't meet with us, we can add one of these other ones with a late response, hopefully. That way we keep it at the 7 or 8 ministers. Okay, so we're going to take that one off. Council's good with that? Okay. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a question. Is there any reason why we can't divide up, say, 2 groups of 3 and meet with as many as possible, that we have, instead of everybody going to each of them, that you divide our forces and meet with more ministers?
Again, it's actually, UBCM is more than just meeting with the ministers. Again, there's a
That's-
lot of conferences there. It's not all about meeting with them. You get 15 minutes of speed dating. So you got to pick the right ones. And if we try to get them all there, we're not going to get all 14 or that we've selected anyways. We might get 10 of these. And again, it's not about sending 3 people. I can't cut myself into 3 sections. The mayor's the one that goes and speaks with the ministry.
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Whitworth.
And there may be circumstances where we take this off your list, but there is a possibility that because of the importance of it, I might be able to meet with the deputy ministers. So without the mayor, because he's meeting with the ministers, but the deputy ministers are the working part, and I can meet with them if there's a priority for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Julik.
So I know we have the Ministry of Housing, but I don't know if it's the Ministry of Housing we need to meet with or it's BC Housing. And BC Housing is on that provincial agencies. It's the MAC part. So I don't know if that makes a difference when we're making appointments or not. Or because if we want to meet with both, then that's 2 different meetings from what I can understand from this.
Yeah, again, BC Housing works under the Ministry of Housing. So again, when we went to Victoria, that's how that was set up. We explained to the minister what we were coming for, so he made sure that BC Housing was available via Zoom in the meeting.
Okay. I just was looking in the book and wanted to make sure we didn't miss that. I'm good right now. Like for me, the senior services, the ones that I brought forward, I still think like the citizen services around connectivity, I think are really important. I think the mental health is super important and the senior services. So those would be the 3 that I ranked top.
I'm going to make a suggestion at this point, just waiting for a response back from after the ministry came up from housing, when we had staff come up from housing, the Minister of Housing, and we had BC Housing here as well, that we wait for that update. So we remove housing at this time. We can remove them until we hear back. We can always do a late response and go from there. That would be my comments, and that's because they've come here with staff, and then also that came with them was BC Housing, with the concept that they're coming back, and I think we just got to give them a chance to work through some of their details before they can come back to the public to actually look at what's needed in Tumbler Ridge. We're definitely not off the map. We got to give them time on their side that we're not the only community that's asking things from BC Housing or the Minister of Housing. So I would just say that we take that and put it onto the side list. Any concerns from council? Okay, so we'll just move that to the side list. Sorry, Councillor Noxana, I'll come right back to you.
I was going to say the same thing about transportation. Could we move that into an email? And if it's something that we haven't heard back, we can ask if Mr. Woodward can meet with the deputy, because it's more than finding out why we haven't heard the response for these 2, housing and transportation.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I was actually going to bring that forward as well. Council's good with that? Again, we've reached out to Modi. That I know for the email's already been sent to Modi. We were just going to follow up to make sure they received our email and it wasn't lost in the internet. So we'll move Transportation Ministry off to the side. Councillor Noberry.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. I would like to challenge the removal of BC Housing, and the reason why I say that is supportive housing. Councillor Julik brought it up. I also agree that we need supportive housing in our community, and BC Housing is responsible for that. So I'd really like to chat with them about how we can get that going. I know there's specific members in our community that have been asking for supportive housing for a long time. And what I mean is for not just for a Hartford court, but for disabled people or elderly or whatever. And I'd really like to chat with them about how we can access that. Is it a housing society? So I would like to meet with them.
So again, I think we give an opportunity for them to answer the email that we sent back to them, because it'll be coming back to our community in person. So we'll actually have one-on-one more time, I believe, in the town when they come back. And it's part of the housing study we did that they received. It's actually in there in regards to assisted living housing. It's right in our housing assessment that was done. I was actually part of the health task force when that was done. So again, I think we'd have more time or more chance to dialogue with them once we hear back. And if we don't hear back, I mean, we can add that to the list, Councillor Norbert, in my eyes. I mean, there's other ones here that to me I think we need to spend time with. I mean, I'm not sure how council feels. Everybody seemed okay with it, having it removed. I understand it, and it's in that assessment, but I think if they come back to our community like they said they are, and that's what our follow-up email has been sent to them to find out what dates they're looking at, I think it gives us more of an opportunity when they're right here in town. So that's my thoughts. Councillor Julik.
And I just to Councillor Norbury's point, from what I understand here, the senior services, like, so it's the Ministry of Health that's responsible for home health, long-term care, and assisted living. So if we can keep health on there, and I hear what you're saying, and I understand that since we've had BC Housing, that's why I was okay to let it circle back. And then to know that the senior services, the long-term living, that's listed here in the Ministry of Health. Now it says policy development and implementation, so I don't know if that's the building of things, but so that's the other thing too. While I've got the mic, so when it says Ministry of Health and then it's got the division branch and then the topic, like when we go in there, are we talking like, can we pick, like, so there's primary care, there's population and public health, there's senior services. Do you go in there and talk about anything that they have listed here? Or do we have to like pick one of these areas that they have listed?
We're going to send what we're looking for.
Okay.
So we're coming looking for this. This is our ask, this is our want. They'll be prepared with their staff. We'll have a quick, like I said, by the time you say hi and shake hands and sit down, we got 7 minutes.
Okay.
She's quick.
Okay, and so it covers all the things.
Yeah, like
under the
it's,
Ministry of
that'll be
Health.
what we send our staff to have in our background.
Okay.
Whatever
Okay.
we're looking for.
Perfect,
If it's
thanks.
to assist in living quarters, and if that's what we're asking, then they'll have that. And if it's not within their ministry, they'll send that back to staff. Oh, you'd be better off to meet here. So then we do that. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just hearing some horse trading here. Just throwing it out there as a sort of a yes, definitely list as we're going along here. It might shorten the difficulties, that if we have 5 or 6 that everybody's in agreement should be on there, and we're only trying to get 2 more instead of just going from bottom up. So here, Councillor Julik has some specific ones she wants to see on there, and if we can take out housing and we add health, then let's put health on the for sure list, if you will, as we're working on it. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we can do it that way, but if we're moving stuff off, I mean, we've already moved off 2 of them. 3 now with transportation. We're getting the list down pretty quick. We got 4 more to go. Councillor Noxana's got 1 more.
I really just want an answer on that grant for childcare. I mean, if it's no, I definitely want to meet with them and find out why. I'll have very specific questions. But at this point, we can't ask them any more than what's the answer for the grant. So I'm not sure if we want to move that into a second one or have that on a, please, Mr. Woodward, can you follow up for us list? Or can we have them as a maybe? And if we don't get the answer back on a grant that we want, can we then change our mind and meet with them? What's the rules?
Yeah, we can do something, but I can actually hook you up with the lady that was really the one that supported the grant, or started the grant. Michelle Kirby, we can just meet with her. We can meet with her over coffee. Doesn't have to be through the ministry. She's the one that really was telling us about the grants, and we understood why we were denied the first time and when to reapply. She was very, very helpful. So, I mean, to me, in regards to YMCA, I really hope, to me, it sounded like they were, very supportive of Tumble Ridge and getting the grant. So, I mean, I hope we have good news. Councillor Julik.
That grant is through School District 59, so I don't know that they would tell us anything anyways, as the District of Tumbler Ridge. Yeah, but it's still not the District of Tumbler Ridge. So I just don't think that they would tell us, is what I'm saying, if we went in there and said, how come we haven't? But I also agree with Mayor Kakauka, but I think if we were looking for answers, we could connect with the school district and see where it's sitting on their side.
Enough. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakauka. So I would still like to meet with the Ministry of Education and Childcare, specifically to talk about childcare for 0 to 3. A lot of what I've been talking about, getting ECEs credentialed, getting them paid to go to school, is to approach the problem of the early years, right? Like right now, their strategy is for 5 and up. I think we still need to keep hitting them and make them aware of our unique difficulties of the 0 to 3. Currently, in our community, there are many people who have children under the age of 3 who are not able to work because they don't have childcare, and that's something that is under this ministry. And I'd like to ask them to one, if they have any strategies coming forward and how we can access them. And if they haven't, can you take it back and work on it for us?
Okay. What's council think? One wants to take it off, and one wants to keep it on. Councillor Hoffman.
Trying to play the mediator here. We have children and family development, and we have education and childcare. In the end, I think council should pick a priority between those two. And whichever loses is off for the time being. I just, in the end, if I take a step back, touching as many of the priorities as we can makes sense, and doubling up on huge priorities is fine, but that really is going to limit your time for those areas. So that's my suggestion. I suggest we pick between those two.
Councillor Jilic.
So what I understand from Councillor Norbury, the reason he was looking for children and family services was specifically for the specialty services. And so I feel like that is more of a priority in the fact that, maybe even if we ask for them to travel somebody up here on a regular basis or something like that, like what kind of idea they have to solve that problem. The reason I would choose that one over education and childcare is because they have those programs out there already, the $10 a day childcare and stuff, and I don't know that that's the issue for us right now. It's more the ECE workers, and I don't know that Ministry of Education and Childcare is going to be the solver of that problem. I think that when you talked about post-secondary, that they might be more of an, I think childcare, they're trying to do that. They're trying to create those childcare spaces. And so for me, I would choose the specialty services and for children and family and or post-secondary for the ECE programs.
Okay. Councillor Noxana.
I hear what you said, Councillor Norbury, and I agree. We are in a dire situation for childcare in 0 to 3. I would agree, though, with the other statement that we're looking for the education piece. We're hoping that the spaces will get built, but we do need people to be trained in this. So if it was the Ministry of Post-Secondary Education and Future Skills that could answer that question, great. But I would also like to say that I think it's very different things when you're talking about the Ministry of Children and Family Development and the Ministry of Education and Childcare. Yes, they're both talking about children, but it's two completely different asks there.
Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So, Councillor Hoffman, I can appreciate you're trying to try and find a in-between, but, you're making where I don't think it's fair for us to say, well, it's this or this. Well, yeah, when you put two, in my opinion, two of the top choices, you're going to have a winner and you're going to have a loser, but we don't have to have winners and losers here. We can see all of them. I do appreciate, Mayor Kakalka, that you feel that we don't want to stretch ourselves thin, but my opinion is that this is our one opportunity to meet with the ministries face to face. I'd rather have more than have less, and I'd hate for an important project, issue from Temple Ridge to get pushed off to the side because 1 and 2 are so close. Yeah. So I think we fell into, well, we need to choose A or B when we're still at 10 different ministries to look at. Let's look at something else.
Sure. And we put Minister Mines on there, and to me, it needs to stay on there. And one of my directives would be to have staff reach out to Canima Coal and Peace River Coal to make sure, see if there's anything they need from council. And if there isn't, it can easily come off. I know we reached out when we went to Victoria, and there really wasn't a need from Canuma side or Anglo-American, so we didn't meet with that ministry. It would be the same as this one, so I know it's short turnaround due to the June 30th deadline, but if neither one of them are needing anything, to me, there's no sense of meeting with the minister. I mean, again, opens up opportunities for other communities to meet with the minister if it's nothing's needed from the Tumble Ridge side. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for clarification, is this not an annual meeting?
Every year.
Every year. So to my mind, it's what do we need right now? We can always push the high, but not right now excuse me, the high but not right now priorities for a year. And I'm even okay with making note of it right now, that what we did and didn't do, that we remember next year who we went to see and who we didn't go to see. And I do appreciate, I don't want to cut out either of those two, but I would rather touch on tourism, mining if we need it, forestry, health. There's just so many issues to touch on. And I don't even think it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it's a, let's cover our bases as best we can. So in the end, I'm fine with whatever we choose, and if we want to do both of those, I don't have an objection to it, but it becomes down to what are we going to cut? And that's why I was suggesting earlier, just let's start putting down which ones we just absolutely as a council don't want to cut, and then we can discuss the rest. And picking one of those as one absolutely is just a start to that, but that's all. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll make some comments here before I go to Councillor Julik. There's other alternatives as well. This is 15 minutes of speed dating. So to me, if these are priorities, and I understand in regards to EC and childcare for 0 to 3, maybe that's not a UBCM meeting. Maybe that's a Victoria meeting where it's not 15-minute speed dating. You get the 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You don't just have the minister there, you have staff there as well usually. Maybe that's more bang for our buck instead of having the 15 minutes at UBCM. And I agree with in regards to childcare, it's something that the community's been fighting for a very long time, but it's the same as health. Like we have the health minister here, we're gonna get 15 minutes if they accept. Last year's UBCM, we were denied. Victoria, when I went down in February, whatever month that was, denied. So maybe again, this is where we remove health as well and actually ask for a meeting in Victoria, where you don't get 15 minutes, you get 30 minutes. And to me, you get more with the minister on some of these priorities when it comes to health. You know, our doctors, our nurses, what can we do different? What can we do better? Transportation, and you guys are setting up these remote, or not remote, but locations, whether it's Fort St. John, Dawes Creek, Prince George and stuff for all the professional medical help, but we have no transportation at Tumbridge if we don't drive. You know, maybe that's the opportunity for those certain ones that we believe are very high on our list, including the childcare one. Maybe that's a better spend, is setting it out and trying to get into Victoria and meeting them there. That'd be my comment there. Councillor Julik.
So I'm just going to double check. The schedule that we were given as a sample for last year, it actually shows 30-minute meetings. Are they 30-minute meetings or 15-minute meetings?
15.
Oh, okay. Because it just says 2 to 2:30.
Yeah, I'm not sure last year, there were 15 minutes. We were not there for a half hour, so.
Okay.
Maybe I misread it. It's 15 minutes.
Okay.
They
good.
actually taught that at the Dawes Creek orientation about speed dating.
Yes, absolutely. I just was like, okay, but this shows 30 minutes on each of these, so I wonder why. I think the last one looks at 20. Okay, so for me, looking at this, and I absolutely agree with you, if we can make those other things, I guess for me, wanting to make sure that we're meeting the right ministry for what it is that a councillor wants, what they find is important. So when I hear from Councillor Norbury, the reason he wants to connect with Ministry of Education and Childcare, I'm understanding that he's wanting to talk about ECE. Now, they'll give approval for ECE post-secondary programs, but if we can't get the post-secondary program through post-secondary, like the Ministry of Post-Secondary, then I'm wondering if that's when education and childcare we don't do, and we focus more of our efforts on post-secondary. For me, the reason citizen services is so important is because connectivity. We saw it in our business walk that we needed to do that. And I know we're talking about which ones to take off, but I'm wondering if we can also start a list that shows this is what we think is one of the more important ones that we don't want to take off. Like, I have all the reasons why the ones I want, but I don't have reasons for the other ones because they're not a priority for me. So we can sit here and bat the ball back and forth, but maybe we make the ones that are a priority and then list. I'm just wondering if that would work.
We're going to do a priority list, and everything that's on here is going to be on the priority list.
All right.
Right, that's the
Then
problem.
I'll
You have 3.
Yeah.
Councillor Norbury has a couple. Councillor Knoxon has a couple. I have a couple that I don't want to remove. Councillor Dussault probably has a couple she doesn't want to remove. So they're all priority.
Okay.
Right, so that's the concern here.
All right.
So I'd like to hear from Councillor Norbury in regards to, I understand, and we met with them last year. They said about reaching out to Northern Lights College, which Northern Lights College has sent an email, no meeting time set up in regards to EC education, similar to the nurses and doctors, but not really where they would pay them. Again, maybe this is an opportunity where we take it to Victoria, where we get more time and they actually understand the whole dialogue, what we're looking for.
Sorry.
Councilor Norbury?
Thank you. I'm looking to look at some more cuts here. I'm going to move along. Tourism of arts and culture and sport. I know it's, we like to talk to them because we're trying to promote that, but from what I understand, we were just down in Victoria, yourself, Mayor Kukalka, meeting with them. We talk about, we've already, where a lot of these other ministries we're not going to see because we spoke to them last year. And I'm kind of, my thought is, if we've already spoke to the ministry less than 6 months ago, is this really something needed? And do we have a specific ask? If we don't have specific asks, maybe those are the ones that we can cut out.
Yeah, so my thing is tourism, again, is the same thing. We're looking for the same support. And I believe that previous councils have always done it, previous to me even being elected. I think tourism is one of the important things because it's something that this was a driver for the community. Unless we don't think it's a driver for the mine, if a mine was ever to close. To me, that's what we've really pushed on, making sure we have tourism to have that second industry support this community if we ever end up with a coal downfall. Again, that is why. I mean, again, we've reached out to them again, even though we met with them in Victoria. So again, it's having that dialogue so we don't go away. I think if we keep barking with tourism, hopefully we'll see some, and maybe we don't, Councilor Norbury, but that's why I brought it up again in tourism. And yeah, I met with them in Victoria. I thought it was a great meeting, but again, follow up to see if they're willing to come to bat by sending some staff up here to help with applying for grants and stuff. But that's why I put it on there. And I'm fine taking it off, but again, that was a big thing, and I believe it still is within the community of Tunbridge. To me, it still is for myself. It's another industry that, to me, if, we've put a lot of taxpayer dollars into tourism functions, new signage, new Vic Center, new trailhead markers, really push. And to me, I think that's an asset that we make sure we meet with them. I mean, at one point, we had 2 people working in ECDEV. Part of that was in regards to tourism. It's a lot of money spent by the taxpayers, I think, and to me, if it's not a driver or a belief that it's a driver for this council, then I think that's a discussion we have and remove if it isn't. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to continue with the suggested removals, looking at it right now, with what ask we would have, I'd remove environment and climate change strategy for the time being. I don't think we have an immediate ask. And the other one that I would also consider is the one that I brought up earlier, emergency management and climate readiness. I think we're going to go through a self-analysis in the near future of what we did well and what didn't go well and what everything needed to go on. I don't know if we have an ask for them at this point in time. So just to help things along, I would suggest those 2.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was going to mention that earlier, but thanks, Councillor Hoffman. Good. So we're at 9. I'm good with 9 if council's good with 9. Tourism, post-education, mental health, health minister, forestry, mines, education, childcare, citizen services.
You already said you're not getting them all. So
I mean, maybe you do, and then we figure it out from there. I guess from staff side, when do you want the key points for talking? Do you want it before we send in the information to the ministry? Okay, so now's the point. So we can start from the top. Do we have the list? Just because I know I've scratched some of mine off, but sorry. Yeah, that's what I have, children and family. So do we have key topics in regards to children and family? Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can we just have Ms. Curry read the vote?
I think we have them.
Yeah, you guys have the no's and the yeses, so just to clarify, we got health, child and family development, citizen services, education and childcare, energy, mines, forest, health and addictions, post-secondary, and future skills and tourism. So it matches?
That's what we got. Okay. Okay, Ministry of Children and Family Development. What's our key topics from council? Council Norbury.
Youth with support needs, specifically speech therapy, having speech therapists in our community, that expanded, along with autism support.
Just want to make sure staff's captured that.
Yep.
Yep, okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Hoffman?
It's piggybacking, but occupational therapists specifically, and perhaps behavioral interventionists as well. If we're going to have a proper suite, having access to those two is important.
Councillor Norbury?
Just with that, we do have an occupational therapist in town. Okay, fair.
So
just
so
to
my thing
clarify
then, we
with
need to put
Councillor
it there that we're looking for full-time,
Yeah.
right? Like because they're going to say, well, you already have one. So we want to change it from sharing it to full-time is if staff can just mark that because they're going to just, Councillor Hoffman, just so you know, they'll just come back and say, oh, it shows that you have one. They won't realize that we're looking for a full-time dedicated. That's okay with you, Councillor Hoffman? Sorry.
No worries. In that case, then we might want to leave occupational therapist, sorry, getting over something. You might want to leave occupational therapists off because I think getting each of them part-time is more valuable than having a full-time of anyone with the size of town that we are right now. So I'm actually okay with removing occupational therapist.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Councillor Julik?
I don't know that we need to, in my opinion, asking specifically for a full-time or a part-time. Right now, I think there's a lot of things that we would just take for somebody to come up for a month or a couple of weeks and then back or whatever, because I also see within this, there's lots of different pieces of this, like the early years and inclusion policy, communication and engagement branch. So I think that inclusivity is not something that we have here in Tumbler Ridge that we could work on. I think that there's lots of different pieces within this ministry that we could ask for. And while we're looking for supports, I don't know that just keeping it at speech therapy and autism support is enough. I think that there's other kids that fall within this ministry that we don't have supports for in our community, and that we struggle to get supports, whether it's long distance or not. So I would hate for us to narrow it down that much, but I don't know what it's like to be in that 15-minute meeting. I think it's more for me, when I went in there, I would just say, it would be quicker for me to give you a list of what we do have versus what we don't have. And so this is where we need to see some people up here. To me, that is an easier ask in 15 minutes than making a big long list of what we want versus what.
So it's with the immediate needs of the community. That's what we're asking for, the immediate needs. And I believe that's what Councillor Norby has mentioned, 2 items, immediate need. They have tons of stuff that their ministry deals with, tons of this maybe not even within the Peace region. It's what do we think is the immediate need of our residents or their families. That's what we're asking for. For a ministry to go into me, maybe I'm wrong, Councillor Norbury, even staff can speak to it. And when you go in there, if you don't have a certain ask, you're just ballparking it then. You have to have what you're actually wanting. We're missing this, we're asking for this, this is why. We have multiple children or youth that have this, and we need assistance, whether that's alcohol and addiction counselor, mental health counselor for our youth. So if you don't have that, thank you very much for your 15 minutes.
Awesome, thank you.
You have to have what you want from the ministry.
Okay,
You
then
won't get nothing back.
I will stop talking because I don't have a big list.
Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukowka. Just to piggyback on to you, to explain to other councillors who are unfamiliar with the process, if we go in with a vague request, we get a vague answer, no actions. But if we give specific requests, we can have something to actually follow back up on them with. And then very specifically, what have you done for speech therapy? Sometimes, I think I understand what you're saying, Councillor Julik. We don't want to miss out on something, but unless we be specific, we miss out on everything because they're going to say, ministries and politicians are very good at talking about what they're good at, and we're hitting them where they're not good at. So if we go vague, they'll say, oh, we're doing great at X, Y, Z. That's nice, but we wanted A through G. So, yeah, we can always, I think, refine these as we come up. So, yeah, but right now, specifically, and then they'll prepare it and they'll come back. So just so everyone's aware, Mayor Kukowka could probably chip in here too. When we walk in, they have a binder. And it's full of, they'll flip to the Tumbler Ridge page, they'll have our names, our faces, our requests, and they'll have pages of reports on how they can or how they have addressed the issues that were brought up. Some meetings are great because they have the answers to our questions ready to go for us because we were specific. And then sometimes they've already done a little bit of work and say, okay, well, we understand this is your ask, this is what we can do. Sometimes it's, no, you are crazy, and we're not going to do that. And, we've had that happen, so. Me specifically, so there we go.
Yep, I agree with you. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you both for that clarification. That does help me in this conversation. So let me ask this. I think part of the reason that we're listing these individuals that would be helpful in the community is the lack of assessment. That for autism and other types of those, let's call them divergent, neuro-non-typical, let's just call it that, for the kids that don't sort of fit into the norm, that they need, in this town, they need to be identified, assessed, and then supported. It's like, so if we're going to take the names away from what the jobs are that we think that we need, that would be my ask. But I think that gets too broad from what you're describing. Because, I mean, if you're in the south, you have to go to Sunny Hill. If you're in the north, I don't remember what they're called, but there's one assessment place for the entire north. And I just don't think that's a good model when you have 20 communities that are trying to move this around. It could be a rotating sort of thing so that somebody can access it within a year wherever they are. But that's what I see really needing. I know some of the homeschool kids just have a lot of trouble integrating into the schools. A lot of new kids move to town and have issues that weren't assessed before, and now they're trying to integrate into a new one. So that's really the bottom line. I think a lot of kids are getting left behind right now because they're not properly assessed on what their needs are.
Yep, thanks, you. Okay, we're good with those topics? Staff is good with capturing? Okay. Okay, so then I've got, sorry, where's my list? Citizen service. Councillor Jilic.
For me, it's connectivity and affordability. We currently do not have enough connections as people move into town to even get high-speed internet. And the affordability is what I'm hearing for some folks, is that it's just not possible. So those would be the two things that I'd be looking at.
Okay, anything else from council? I don't know about affordability in regards to this ministry. Again, it's a private enterprise that supplies connectivity to our community. That's my only, I understand the connectivity in regards to getting, the last mile done. We supported a grant to tell us a couple of meetings ago in regards to finishing the loop connection from Chetwynd to this side, but that's not the last mile that we've all been talking about of it coming into the community. And I believe that's the biggest thing for connectivity in regards to whether it's TELUS or another enterprise finishing that last mile. But I know TELUS is looking at doing the finishing of the loop. So, Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kalka. With that, I would say funding streams. Ask them if we can get more funding streams because the Ministry of Citizen Services, I don't want to lecture you guys, but to give you a little background, in past telecoms, they will go to the Ministry of Citizen Services applying for grants so that they can lay the actual fiber or whatever. They'll go to them for grants, and they will use that grant money because why use your own when you can use the government's, to bring it to us. So one of the big things when we were in talks with other telecommunications is that they would assist us on the backs of granting streams. So I think for us to have that affordability component so that they can get as much paid for so they don't have to recoup their costs through the service delivery, getting that capital cost partially paid for. So that would be my request on if they have any plans for any upcoming funding streams. Are they increasing the value of those funding streams to cover the increasing costs of doing business? And then my own personal request would be allowing municipalities to access those grants, not just the telecoms. background to that is we are really up to the, it's really up to the telecoms to go and ask for those grants. We don't have a say. I would really like it if we had the opportunity to apply for the grants and allow telecoms to come to us for the money. And we hold a little bit more of the cards.
Yeah, I would just ask you, back to you, Councilor Murray, what was the response last year? Because those were the exact same questions we asked last year.
They said, well, if it's going to go back to them anyways, we might as well just give it to them again. We might as well just give it to them. And I would hit them again with like, that's nice, but for us, we've got nothing. So rather than just say, hey, we'll give it to the telecoms, we still haven't seen any movement for our side. So maybe if we held that pot of money, we'd see better results.
Okay, I just know, like, when we go back and ask the same question, we're probably going to get the same reply. Councilor Noxana?
I understand it's hard to ask for affordability because you're talking about a company to a ministry. And I just wanted to point out that TELUS does offer a program for any family with children under the age of majority. If you are low income, you can get internet 25 for $9.95 and internet 50 for $19.95. So it doesn't capture all the families that might need it, but it does capture, I would say, a great deal in our community and others for lower cost internet.
Councillor Hoffman?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess it's a question to staff, but going through you. Is there anything stopping a municipality for actually providing the service, that we contract somebody to do it for us as opposed to relying on the two options that we otherwise would have?
Mr. Woodward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I could have answered it, but I don't want.
I don't know how to respond to that because municipalities usually don't dip into the private industry or get involved with the private industry. And usually when they do that, it's usually not all that successful.
I understand that there would be risks involved, and I'm just looking at, there's two industries that are very much linked together nowadays. Like, I know our cell coverage does not go tower to tower out of town. It uses the backbone that it does have. That's why when the beavers cut us off, everything went down, including cell service. I'm just looking at it for 2,000 people for coverage, it might be at least worth looking into. And I guess that's my question, is there's, to the ministry, is there something that stops us from doing that if we decide to go down that route? And if...
I'm actually, let's have this conversation somewhere else. I believe there's been a conversation on closed in this, and I believe it's still in there.
Okay, sorry.
And previous, no, don't be sorry. I just don't want staff to start answering something that would, I don't know if this new council has partaked in that, but previous council has, so I just think we gotta be careful how we answer those comments.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
And then just in regards to the beaver chewing the wire, that's why we're coming in with the other part of the loop, is then we're a looped cable. So even if the beavers eat through it on the Highway 52 North, 29 will save us. Councillor Julich.
Okay, so further to that, when I'm looking at public safety broadband network, when we were just in the wildfire situation, there was going to possibly be a time when we would lose communications. Is there something that would be involved in this conversation that would change that? I don't know enough about what our infrastructure is, but I'm wondering if this is the place that this might be a time to talk about that.
I'm wondering if it would be under a different ministry. I'm not sure if staff would know, but I wonder if that's not going to be under, which one did we leave in? Sorry, I didn't write it down.
The reason that this is called the Public Safety Broadband Network. Public Safety Broadband is a Canadian initiative.
Councillor Julie, we all got it in front of us. I need it read to me, sorry. But I'm wondering if it's not under the Ministry of Emergency Management.
Well, the reason I was thinking possibly is because it says the network can be used by first responders and public safety personnel. Was where I was getting to when I was reading.
You can ask them, but like that's where they were going through when we talked about that possibility of losing. That's who they were going through, was that ministry, this ministry here for a mobile unit.
Okay.
That's the reason I brought that one up. Okay, everybody's happy with the direction we've given staff? Ministry of Education and Childcare. Councillor Norbury?
Update on Childcare Spaces grant. I called this problem with no solution. Childcare for 0 to 3. strategies that they are working on, strategies they can suggest for us for childcare for 0 to 3.
So the only concern I would be the grant for the school district 59 has applied for it. It's my understanding from Councillor Julik. So I don't know if they would be able to answer if it's been approved or not. So I think, if anything, we actually send an email to our school trustee and ask for clarification back from their end. That'd be the way to do it. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. I think we can still advocate on their behalf. We're going down for the Ministry of Mines. We're advocating for them. I think this is an advocacy piece for us to show how important it is for our community. I know that we are hands-off, but we can still ask on their behalf.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd support, sorry, Councillor Norbury, I don't think we should be, I believe in other organizations, we can say that we support if they can get approved, we would support it, but asking where that grant sits, I don't think that would be an answer they'd be able to give us. We applied it for last time, that's why we got the information. Councillor Julik?
I would say that I think I would be offended if the school district 59 Peace River South asked about a grant that District of Tumbler Ridge had on the go. That would be me. I'm not saying don't advocate for it. Like, I understand, I can see your frustration, Councillor Norbury. I feel like, I think going there and saying this is important for us, the childcare spaces is important for us, I think that shows the support of the grant. And who's to say, anyways, that's my opinion.
Councillor Noxana? Sorry.
I think we absolutely, that's our job, to advocate for childcare spaces. We're not asking for an update on the grant. I hope we hear back from the grant long before we end up there in September. But we can, if we haven't, and School District 59 hasn't, we can reach out to our contacts at the school district, and ask if there's anything they need from us, tell them where we're going, who we're talking to, and see if there's anything we can say. But we can always advocate for more childcare spaces here in town also. This grant won't capture all the spaces needed for our community as of right now.
Yeah, and maybe I heard Councillor Norbury wrong. I have no problem advocating, not asking where they sit with the grant if it's been approved.
I heard advocating.
Okay,
We're
I
there
must
to
have missed
advocate
it,
for
but
spaces.
I thought he said previously wanting to know where the grant was.
Well, I want to know where the grant is, but that's.
Again, I think
beside the
that's,
point.
again, a letter of support for it, for sure. But again, through the school District 59. Councillor Hoffman?
I don't even think this has to be anything to do with the grant. Just if the grant doesn't come through, we're still going to have a rather high need. And I think where's the ECE training, where's the building going to be, like, everything is still up in the air until we actually have even when we have a grant in hand, it's still half up in the air. So no, I fully support 0 to 3 advocacy as long as we don't mention that there's a grant on their way.
Okay, anything else that needs to be added? If we can just get back what staff wrote for that, please. Sorry, maybe I misunderstood what you said. My ears are plugged. Mr. Woodward?
Yes, thank you. Deputy Corporate Director, go ahead.
I think that the strategies that they are working on and the strategies that they can suggest to us about childcare from 0 to 3. Just it, right? Without mentioning the grant? Just it? Councillor Norbury?
I don't think you should capture it all. Give me a minute, I gotta shut somebody off here. There you go, sorry.
Okay, so we don't need to hear from the ministry if it's getting approved or not. Like, I have, if for our own interests, I'm sure as soon as they know, we'll know through our childcare task force. We have the 2 people that have applied for the grant on our task force. They have told us if they will receive it, they'll let us know. So I don't need to hear from the ministry about that. I want to advocate for childcare spaces in Tumbler Ridge, and I understand you guys' concern about stepping on toes. I'm fine with that. We'll just approach it in a different way.
Okay. Anybody want anything else added on that? Okay. Okay, Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness. Do we remove that one?
Yep.
Thought we removed the other one. Okay, thank you. Energy and mines. So again, I think that needs to be sent out to Canima Cole. If staff can send an email to Canima Cole and Anglo-American to make sure or see if there's anything that is needed for support from the District of Tumber Ridge Council. Councillor Jilic.
And HD Minding and/or DEWA.
Yep, good call. Thank you. Councillor Norberry?
Would Meikle or Pattern Energy fall under this as well?
Yep.
Okay, that's,
Yep.
all right, Capital. It falls in their ministry as well, so.
Yep.
If we're on an advocacy mission, let's hit all of our industry.
Yep. So if we can just send emails out, see if they're having any concerns, whether it's permits or that, and need support from this side. Councillor Hoffman?
Would PNG fall under this as well?
Sorry?
Would PNG fall under this as well with energy?
I would think so.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it does.
Okay.
Natural gas mandates, mining and natural gas mandates.
Yeah, so I'd add PNG to that list.
Councillor Jilic, sorry.
CNRL.
Yeah, it would be all of them, so. I'm not, we guess we need to make sure we give clear direction on who we want to hear from. So I know that, we've always, obviously we support them all. So, I mean, I have a meeting already with Jim Jung next Friday. So I think if we hit up HD, Canuma, Anglo-American, the two windmill companies, DEWA, but DEWA's, I believe, is still the same HD. Anybody think of any? I don't think, like CNRL already been meeting with them, P&G. They're on their own enterprise. The only reason we ever dealt with the ministry on P&G was to try and make sure our rates didn't go up, which that was unsuccessful. But I see that P&G, if anybody's been watching, is looking at doing what they said at our last ministry meeting, I believe last year when we were there, about trying to do a consolidation of the north so that we don't just see the increase in Tumber Ridge, it's spread out between all communities. I've seen that come up on a survey, so. So does that sound, did I hit all the ones that council can think of? Okay, and there's something else we're missing, obviously we'll hear back from people, but if we can just reach out to them, see if they need any support from council regards to permits or anything else they're dealing with. Councillor Jilic?
Yeah, just quickly, as I'm looking at here, they talk about electricity and alternative energy division. And I know that we've talked before about the heat pumps and stuff that aren't usable up here, so we don't get the same rebates and stuff. But is that a BC Hydro conversation, or is that this conversation? And I'm happy to leave it for a letter later on.
That I would know where that would fall under. Mr. Woodward, would you know, like with heat pumps and stuff that Councillor Jilic just talked about, is that under the Ministry of Energy and Mines?
I wouldn't know that.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not aware of that.
Okay, yeah, and I agree. They're not used up here and we don't get a rebate on our gas furnaces. Okay. Everybody's good there? Okay. We got forestry next. So I'll let Councilor Member, I won't take us.
Thank you.
Take us raw.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So I think our specific ask for them is another wildfire mitigation strategy for our region and opportunities for funding those said prescriptions.
And I'd add stumpage conversation. If we could just confer that, we don't need to reach out to community forest, but Councilor Norberry, maybe, not sure when your next meeting is, just make sure I'm not speaking out of turn when it comes to stumpage, but I know that was a huge concern for the community forest in regards to if they raise them on our community forest, it'd be very hard in regards to being able to make money and be able to have it to donate.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So as I said before, there has not been anything brought up. Nothing's been done about it yet. No decision's been made. I know that we met with Minister Mike Bernier about it as well. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt to talk to the ministry itself, just to see if they have an update. And
Perfect.
Your worship?
I'm a little bit confused here, just for a sec. The specific ask, is it wildfire mitigation or is it community forest wildfire mitigation? Can you clarify that for me?
I think we can potentially split that up. I know that the ministry has given prescriptions and then they subcontract that out. I'd like to see maybe we can have one or both, have them come up with prescriptions, they take care of it, or if that's not doable, to come up with a prescription strategy and then give it to the community forest and let us access the money for that, would be my thought. Does that sound crazy?
I don't know if that sounds crazy. I think last time, wasn't it grants the district of Tunbridge received to do the fire mitigation, and then the community fire forest was hired to do the fire mitigation?
Sorry.
I didn't shut your mic off.
I turned my mic off because I didn't realize I should be talking again. And the reason why I say, I think it's been done both ways.
Okay.
I think, one, the community forest, we had our own wildfire prescription plan. And I think another one was the Ministry of Forests had their own prescription plan, and they contracted the community forest to do it for them.
Gotcha.
But that's a little before my time, so I may be misspeaking, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened previously, so.
Okay. So maybe we can just reach out, and get, maybe Councilor Norbury with being on the community forest, we can just reach out and get clarity on that. I may be able to reach out to the previous mayors too and talk to them, but I thought that's what had happened. I sat in the gallery, but I thought it was a grant the district received, and whether the district, I won't say hired the community forest, but obviously used the shareholders that we are, used our direct board of directors, so. But we need to time, and I see that when we talk about fire mitigation, I think that's a conversation this council will be having anyways, and what we think or input from our residents and what they'd like to see. I've heard it, I won't say clear cut, but more or less clear cut, but cutting the trees down, but planting grass instead of just doing fire mitigation. That conversation is happening around the community. So I think that's something when we eventually get to an open house and not absence our evacuation order and start hearing from residents, we'll get some input from there too, but it might be just before we go and hopefully before, and we have that information to take as well. Okay, so I got, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Clickash.
Yeah, I would just like to go back to the heat pumps. I believe BC Hydro's in charge of all the heat pump grants and so forth in BC, if that helps.
It does, thank you, Councillor Clickash. Okay, Minister of Health. Councillor Julik.
I'd really like to talk to them specifically about the primary care network as we continue to work on that Peace River North has that in place, but Peace River South still is working on that. If we can advocate for that program to get implemented, and then the seniors services, as I'd mentioned before, the services here in our community, specifically the home health, long-term care, and assisted living.
Okay. So in regards to PCM, we may hear something soon. I was on a phone on a Zoom here not too long ago on my side, and we obviously a meeting was canceled, so there's a meeting coming up. So I'm not sure if it's to give us all the information about it, but there's a funding model and a budget's been set for it. So just they were waiting for final approval from the ministry. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm wondering if the Ministry of Health wouldn't be worthwhile to bring up the transportation issue with as well. I know that there's often some supports, whether it's taxiing or whatever, that they might be open to supporting an alternative, but I don't think there's any harm at least planting the bug in the ear.
So in regards to transportation, that'd be under Northern Health. That part of it, like TR Cares is supported through Northern Health. So it'd be a meeting to have because I know TR Cares gets funding model out of Northern Health in regards to the TR Care support on. I don't know what their grant request was or was given, but it's to help fund them going to Dawson, Fort St. John, Grand Prairie. So we can mention it here, but it might be worth a meeting with Northern Health in regards to that. And previous meeting with TR Cares, they might not want to have any more workload. It's all volunteer based. Through their drivers that take people out of town, so I think we've got to be careful there too. Councillor Hoffman?
It's outside of TR Cares that I'm thinking of, that they have a support structure, whether it's cab, whether it's your grandma, whether it's your sibling, like somebody that's willing to drive you, that they can be compensated for gas or time or however it is. I have no vision of volunteering any organization to be a large-scale transporter of anything. But if they're centralizing our services, then there needs to be a way to get there. And it may just be community support, but compensated community support is the back of my head anyways.
Okay. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I think I agree with Councillor Hoffman, but I think in preparation we should be meeting with TR cares about how their funding model works and the amount that they can do, because, I mean, my thought would be something outside of TR cares. I know they are limited in what they can do, how often they can do it, because, you know, they can operate in their own sphere, and if they get too large, they become something else and they're not able to access funding. So I'm thinking something outside of TR cares. But I think it would be a good idea for us to do a little bit of homework to meet with TR cares so that we're not stepping on toes and yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Anything else in regards to Minister of Health? Okay. Mental health and addictions. Councillor Dussault.
Yeah, I would like to ask them about funding for counseling and support for parents of youth that are struggling with addiction, as well as adults that are struggling with addiction. Also, what kind of funding could we look at to see about getting support within our local area instead of having to send our residents down to Vancouver, down to Victoria? Getting supports like that.
Okay. Councillor Jilek.
I believe they're building us, it's going to be a few years off, but I do believe that there is going to be an addiction center built in the north. I'm not saying we don't ask about it still, and how do we, in the meantime, get access for our citizens here in the north, particularly in our community, to those. I think that the whole mental health and addictions, there's just not easy access for any of that, whether it's addiction or mental health or affordable community counseling. Like everything that they list here, we need. It is not easily accessible, and it's not affordable for a lot of folks. So that's what I would like to ask for.
Everything here?
Everything, all of it. Let me go back there. I would say addiction and mental health are probably our two priorities.
Councillor Nobre.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So I'd like to preface my comments saying that my time as the chair of the Building Healthy Communities Committee, I was very focused on mental health support. But I think it would be useful if we had a little bit more of a specific ask other than we want mental health counseling and support, because they'll say, you do, 1 day a month. So I think it's a good idea for us to add that specificity, saying we want 2 days a month, we want increase of service. So I think for our homework, find out what we have, and then what expansion of that service are we looking for? Because I'll tell you, it was hard for 3 years pounding my head against, you know, these ministries asking for mental health and support. And I think where I failed there, to maybe we can build on that, those failures, is having specificity in what our needs are. So a survey potentially where, and how much support we do need, so we can come with specific ask and have data to provide that, because I've tried that approach of we need more, and they're like, yeah, you're right, and then nothing happens. So, you know, I agree with all the comments, but it's a strategy we've already tried multiple times, and you know, maybe we should be asking them for a meaningful assessment of where our gaps and services lie. I also don't know if that's the answer either. So I'm muddying the waters. I apologize, but I know that this strategy has been attempted and we're still here.
Thanks, Councillor Nobre. I was going to mention some of the same things you did, and I think you got to have a specific ask, and the reason I say that is they're gonna come back with, well, there is a support, there's a shared position out of Chetwynd and Tumblr. So there has to be a specific, and it was no different in regards to youth counseling. Well, we do the online, we have the Zoom links, you can call, you can do this. No, we want boots on the ground. Not every youth wants to talk to somebody through a screen or an adult. So I think it has to be a specific ask, because they're going to come back and say it's a shared position. We already have it, because they'll have all the information. They'll get that from Northern Health and what the shared positions are out of Chetwynd and Tumbler Ridge, that they are sharing these individuals, including the family and child services that have the youth counselor available at Tumbler Ridge. They're going to have all that information in regards to, they do come. They come, it's once a week in person, and then they're available either via phone or Zoom the rest of the time. Previous me moving to Tumbler Ridge, my understanding was there was many services here when the mines were here. When I became a paramedic for Tumbler Ridge, we had a drug and alcohol counselor, we had a youth counselor, we had all that stuff in the clinic. And slowly went away, but the mines didn't go slowly away, they were still here. So I didn't understand, even as a paramedic, why we were losing the services when we still had an operational mines. They weren't shut down. And to me, once they, whether it's Northern Health or another organization, another ministry, is able to slide those people out of the community with no big uproar, it is very tough to get them back. I've attended meetings. You attended with myself and Ms. Torval and Ms. Curry in Dawes Creek. We talked about this. They were well set up. They talked about the same thing. And again, I think when we go to meet with these ministers, we don't have a specific, hey, listen, we want 2 days in person a week. And if you're not willing to fund it, how can we fund it? Put the money where your mouth is. We'll fund it. What's it going to cost district taxpayers? That's all we need to know. Because we're going to take it back and we're going to debate if we're going to spend it. Because we're going to hear what we went through with Northern Health in Dawes Creek, and we sat there for just about, what was it, an hour? And then that's what we're going to hear at these minister things. So I think we have to have a specific ask, but be willing to say, okay, if you don't want to fund it, how do we fund it? Because we want it for our residents. We know there's a need for our youth. We know there's a need for our adults, and it'll help our society in regards to Tumbler Ridge. So that's all. That's what I mentioned there, because I know we sat in that, and I can see it happening there. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, what I don't hear on the discussion, what it costs when you don't have it. Like the fact that you send out people to intervene in an emergency, you fly out this patient for days under care. Like, what does that cost versus having somebody available for an extra few days a month? Like, I'm wondering, is it just a shortage of personnel? Like they don't have the people to share around, and then it's get them trained, because that's just, they must know that, to my mind. They must know what it costs to have an intervention in an isolated community. Like, it makes, the math doesn't make sense to me. I know I must be missing something, but that's just it. Would that be helpful to bring up just when we have these issues? It costs paramedics, it can cost RCMP, it costs a bed somewhere else. It costs all these things that we could probably prevent at least a good portion of them. So I'll defer to you, since you have been through these before, that should we spend even time looking at what the one person for one specific intervention costs versus having that one extra day, or having the once a week or whatever it is, but having somebody physically come. I just think it makes too much of a difference. So I guess my question to you, Mayor, is would it be worth looking at the actual costs of the intervention and including that in this report, or am I going off the reserve?
Yeah, I don't think it's wrong. The thing is, we are short. It's not BC is short mental assistants like counselors and all that, or drug and alcohol counselors. Canada is short. The world is short. We can't just throw them in, let's train them. Well, people have to want to be trained, right? Like, that's the thing. So we are short. So when we go in for these asks, we already hear it, but how do we make ourselves known and stronger voice, that instead of spending, I don't want to say they're 4 days in Chetwynd and only 1 day here. I don't know what their schedule is. They're not my employee. But how do we speak up for our residents to make sure we're getting maybe a bit more higher service on the ground? Because there is a shortage. There's a shortage of nurses. There's a shortage of doctors. So we can go down there and preach to these guys, this is what we want, but they don't have the bodies. But can we try to, and we did that at the Northern Health meeting in Dawson. Can we just change it a bit? Can we get a little bit more time on boots on the ground in Tumbler, right? Instead of 1 day a week, can we go 2 days a week? Right, so we did ask that even with Northern Health, and to me that's the same thing here, and we got to be realistic, I guess. Councillor Julik.
Just to build on what you said, I guess my thing would be going in would be saying to them, okay, well, what is it you need? We used to have these services, we don't have them anymore. Are you telling me the reason we don't have the services anymore is because there's not the bodies? Or are you telling me we don't have the services anymore because you didn't think we needed them? What is it that we need to do to get this happening? And like I said, you guys know better than that, but for me, that's where it's at. Like, if we had them at one time, why did they go away? Are you guys seeing that there isn't a need? Because we're seeing that there is. Like, so for me, it's about figuring out why they left and how we get them back. And then if they say, well, it is a shortage, well, then how do we make that look a little bit different? And I think it'll be the same answer, job industry wise. But anyways, that's where, when you were talking, that absolutely makes sense as to how do we do it? And how do we get our point across to this ministry that it's important?
Yeah, and again, I think we advocate. I understand what we want more, but I think we just got to advocate, saying like, what can we do to help? How do we get it so that we have 2 days in Tunbridge or 3 days at Tunbridge? So again, there is definitely shortages, and I think the problem is when people, you know, they work a career in a small rural remote community, decide they want to move, and when they move, they can't fill the position. So I know the previous one very, very well. They just moved to a different place in the Peace region, right? And they couldn't fill a spot. I mean, it was a hard hurt here in Tunbridge, especially for our youth, because she dealt with both. So, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have the solution to the the problems I just brought up, but you know, maybe we're just going to go in an advocacy.
I think that's all we have to do.
But with that, to illuminate everyone's how, at least my experience with Northern Health works, is they go by statistics and numbers, and it's almost. Like when we remove the drug and alcohol counselor, you know, obviously we're going to have the need for a drug and alcohol counselor from their perspective, from their numbers and statistics, is going to go down because, well, look at that. We don't have any requests for a drug and alcohol counselor because the community knows. And that is one of the biggest issues that I find with Northern Health. And the reason why I say that is we go back to the emergency clinics on the weekends. You know, they'll say that the need for the emergency on weekends is down than it has been the last however many years, because people go directly to Chetwynd and Dawson. So they're creating a scenario where they're not getting the statistics they would need to create this position. So we need to approach it from a different angle. And yeah, so.
Okay, I think we leave it there.
Yeah.
Okay. Post-secondary education and future skills. That's on the list. Councillor Julik.
I know that we have asked in the education sector about getting online programming, online teaching, and so that would be something that I would like to see, that and to advocate for that, whether it's the ECE program, whether it's social workers, that kind of thing, because it's often spoke about, if you can train the people that are in your community, they'll stay in your community. So post-secondary, if they can create those seats where people can do some online training for the industries that we're looking short on. I see Councillor Noxon is looking at me like, what are you talking about? Maybe there's an ECE program. I know there's an ECE one, but is there for social work? Is there for physiotherapy and that stuff? And if there is, then I'll stop talking.
Yeah, you don't stop talking. I mean, we can talk about so ECE there is, and then I know they can come in and be shadowed by a certified ECE and be certified that way. Now, when it comes to social workers and stuff like that, I don't know if it's the same criteria needed in regards to the education they would need for their certificates. Could be an ask. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. For me, for the Ministry of Post-Secondary Education was to check their flavor for having a similar funding structure for ECEs to get paid to go to school, like they're paying nurses.
Yep.
To Councillor Julik, the ECE program is available online, and Northern Lights College was actually willing to set up their VC rooms, so their video conference center, for a cohort if we can get enough people, which is still open if we can get enough people. So. There.
Yeah, again, it's getting enough people that want to do it. So I guess my question back to you, Councillor Norbury, and I'm fine with what you're looking for from that ministry, but we asked that same question in 2022. That was what question that we asked there as well, from that group, looking for the same way the healthcare was getting paid, nurses were getting paid to go to school and stuff, and they talked about there was some grants available. Didn't supply them for their whole pay while they went to school for ECE, but there was some kind of grant. Are we looking more for that than that? It was something that was through, I want to say if they were already hired by back then it was obviously the Children's Center, now it's YMCA, but there was some kind of program that they could link into. They talked about it there. I just can't remember what it was called. No, I don't want to put you on.
I don't think I don't know if that was specifically to pay them while they're going to school. I know there's a work integrated learning program, so they can work while they go to school, but this is something different, I believe, and I don't recall us having that conversation. At that time, I think we were just looking for funding for their schooling, which they've done, but this is more of pay them so they can go to school. I think it was separate.
Okay. I just know we asked this same question. I know it was asked, so I just wondering if we can do it a different way so that, whether we have the proper information that the nurses get, so that we have it right in front of them and submit it when staff submits this. They're paying the nurses $20 an hour while they're in school and covering their overhead costs. Like I know through the PRD, the district of Tunbridge puts in regards to scholarships, and people can apply for scholarships to the PRD for healthcare, going in for nurses and stuff like that. So just want to make sure we have the right criteria, because I remember it being asked last year. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. Apparently, the ITAA is now called Skilled Trades BC. And what I would like to bring up would be the fact that 90% or so of most of the Red Seal programs could be done online, instead of somebody having to go away for 6 weeks and find a place to live in Burnaby to go to either ITA or BCIT, or find the rare one-off programs elsewhere, that they could do most of their skills training online and then maybe go for the practical for a day or two instead of being gone for several weeks at a time.
And we know that, so, sorry, I wouldn't know that information. Like, to me, I think, certain criteria has to be met to be certified as a Red Seal. You'd have to have a person below you that's Red Seal to rate you off, or how does that work?
I'm talking about the schooling portion. So I'll go with the one I know. For plumbing, for example, there's 4 classes that you're supposed to do. The majority of your class time is spent in class with a little bit of practical touching, whether it's a furnace or doing some soldering or something like that. So the thought is, instead of somebody having to go away for 6 weeks to sit in a classroom, that they could do that portion online. They would still have their apprenticeship for their number of hours with whomever they have their apprenticeship with. But instead of having to go away and find a place to live and try to do an in-person course for a course that's very hard to find the time and get into, I would imagine that an online option would work a whole lot better, especially for us up north. So just putting the bug in the ear on this one too, that since this is becoming normal, there are institutions that are fully online. I don't see why Skills BC can't make it easier for people to get those skills by doing the coursework portion online and having a different assessment for the few practical skills that we actually do in school.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Knox-Sena.
So I believe the Red Seal program has actually gone Canada-wide, that it's standardized now. And while that might work for plumbing, there's many other Red Seals that it would not work for. And I just know because our household knows mechanics and half their day was spent in a shop. So it might be a really big ask. I have no idea how that would even look.
And I would, to answer that, in the mechanics portion, you're right, I don't know. But if it's 80% in the shop, 50% in the shop, then for 3 weeks or 4 weeks instead of 6 to 8 weeks. I would like for things to start going towards, if we're not going to have the people, if we're not going to have the supports, let's make it as easy as possible to get as much of it done without having to go to these centralized locations. So, and you're right, I don't know all 37 Red Seals and what they go through, but it might work for some of them. And I know what we're short in town. We don't have a full-time electrician anymore. We have a part-time plumber. It's just, you go down the list. I don't think we have a concrete guy. Like, all of these things, let's make it easier. And if it is a few days, then we could decide to support people to go away for those few days instead of trying to pay for them for 6 weeks in Burnaby to go do their classes. Just a thought.
Okay, staff can mark that down. I don't think it hurts to ask the question. Okay, we're all good there? Okay. Last one I have is tourism. Hope I'm on schedule here. What we have? I haven't missed anybody, right? Okay. Tourism. So again, don't get me wrong. I mean, if we hear back from our update requests back to them, but again, it's the ask to support in regards to coming, boots on the ground from one of their employees come up to assist the museum and geopark in regards to grant writing as their capacities. So when we met with the Minister of Tourism, they talk about they don't have ad hoc budgets to give to the Dinosaur Discovery Gallery, but they support a lot of grants through that ministry. But the problem is capacity issues at the Dinosaur Discovery Gallery to apply for these grants. So again, then we can't get provincial funding. So that was a request that we asked when we were in Victoria. We've done a follow-up. Again, to me, it's worth a meet with the ministry if we have not heard back. And if we have, then hopefully we have an update on how successful their help was in receiving some of this grant to have some provincial dollars go into our Dinosaur Discovery Gallery and lessens our tax burdens. Councillor Julik.
Yeah, and specifically to the heritage portion of that, and I know that's where we're talking about some money, and as I look through some of the stuff that they do, like, I think that we need support infrastructure-wise for the fossils and stuff that we keep for the province. And so just to clarify that that's what you're talking about, because for me, those are the big asks that maybe they just have grant money for that, but then how do we get the grant money, and is it just about writing the grants, or can they just give them one? Because it looks like it kind of could be that way, but you obviously know better than me. But for me, though, that's absolutely the kicker is for that.
Yeah, it's all about fossil management and the housing and making sure they have the proper humidity and all that. We actually had BC Fossil Management at the meeting as well that attended in Victoria. They brought some fossils to show the minister and the deputy minister. It was a phenomenally set up meeting. Again, they don't have ad hoc budgets to do it. I guess, again, we need to have support in the north. It does, BC is past hope BC, we'll say. I think I preach that and practice that quite a bit. And it's time they spend some money in the north. These are BC's fossils. These aren't Tumbler Ridge's fossils. And to me, when we have our local taxpayers paying into supporting it, now we have the Peace Region as well supporting the Dinosaur Discovery Gallery as well as our geopark. It's time the government realizes the assets in the north. And we preached it at the minister meeting, and I preach it again. And I think it's an opportunity again to have that talk if they haven't followed through. Again, been 9 years. I don't know how many UBCMs attended, but I know previous mayors, Don McPherson, Mike Gaisley's, I'm not even sure, Mr. White, all of them have always asked for this. So to me, I'm trying to follow the footsteps of them, and I believe this council should follow that, because the day we get some kind of funding from the province, whether it's grant or actually within a line item or something, to me that shows that those folks below us worked so hard, and it finally came to fruition. So.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So one of the things I know that has been successful in our previous meetings was bringing a video. We brought videos before, and it was very well received by the ministry. They'd say we're the only ones who brought one, or they would talk about it continually. So if we can get a video together, or I know previously we talked about getting a 3D presentation for them so they can throw on the Oculus or something. That might be a neat thing to do, but having that visual representation of who we are, what we are about, it's a great minute and a half that can set the stage for us, and a picture can tell 1,000 words.
Councillor Julik.
And just to add to what you were saying, Mayor Kakalka, I believe that there are some sites that are still not developed because of the concern about fossil protection. So we aren't sharing some of those sites with the people of BC because of the concerns around keeping those spaces safe. So I think that that could be something we discuss as well. And I appreciate Councillor Norbury saying, and I think that about a visual representation, it definitely hits home when you get to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Councillor Norbury, for that. Just so staff's captured that, I guess we'll get it right up back to council. If something's missed, we can fill it in before it goes down to Victoria. Mr. Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll find out if we do have a visual presentation, information from the museum, and if we don't, then maybe we can access that somehow. But I think it's a great idea. Yep.
Yeah, we actually want a new one done. So if that needs to be a budget of unbudgeted dollars, just bring that forward. But in regards to a video, it's 100%, they look forward to it. It's been done by multiple councils that taken it down, and it's not just a museum, it's what we have to offer in Tumble Ridge. So it definitely needs to be done, and if that needs to be an item that's brought back by staff to show us what the budget would be, and council can debate if they want to spend that money. But I'm just asking in regards to all the information we've just talked about for each minister meeting, will that be sent to council before it goes down to Victoria? So we've given you all the background information that we're talking about to the ministries.
Okay,
I just wonder if maybe council should see that before it's sent out in an email.
sure. Okay,
Council want to see it? Yeah, okay. If council can just see that first.
sure. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. BC Hydro meeting request. Report dated June 21st, 2023 from the Director of Corporate Services regarding BC Hydro meeting request. Recommendation? Council Norbury?
Or that council received the BC Hydro UBCM meeting request for discussion.
Seconder? Councillor Hoffman? All in favor? Carried. Councillor Norbury?
Not to steal Councillor Click Ash's and Juliek's thunder, maybe this is an opportunity we can talk to them about the heat pump rebate. Because if Councillor Click Ash brought up this is BC Hydro, this is an opportunity for us to talk to them about it.
Okay. So I guess we can ask staff just to set up a meeting with BC Hydro. I don't believe it's the same as ministry. We have more time with them. I think that's an opportunity. So now we're up to, how many now? And that was other agencies? So,
Kent and Kate, this one.
just saying, be aware. I'm sorry, you've been to a couple, you've seen it. I mean, you miss a great opportunity in regards to sessions at the UBCM that to me are very prominent for what we go through every day in Tumble Ridge as well as anybody else in BC. Okay, so staff will send that request. Okay, invitation to council, invitations to council, invitation to council for discussion in regards to the RSVPs in front of us. So there's a couple things going on at the same time, and that is the medical conference that's happening in Tumble Ridge on Friday, July 7th, as well as July 8th. And at the same time, Soto First Nations is having their Pemmican Days. Is council prepared to say if they're available to go to one and which one they'd like to go to? Councillor Juliek?
I feel it would be important for me to do the medical conference pieces as I'm the liaison for the Healthcare Task Force, so I will attend those two, the 7th and 8th.
Okay. So anybody else want to attend the medical one, the medical conference? Councillor Hoffman? Okay. Anybody else for the medical one? I mean, I don't believe you have to be there for both days. The 7th looks like it's 4:30 to 6:30, and then there's an evening social event on Saturday, July 8th. Council Norbury?
I'll try to make both of those, yeah, for the
The
Friday
medical one?
and the Saturday, yeah. As well as one of the Westmo days.
Okay, and Pelican Days, I'll be, Pelican Days, sorry, I'll be attending that myself for sure. Council Noxana? Council Dussault? Okay. And then staff, I mean, if we can just get a list of staff, because to me, there's some things that need a group participation in regards to some of the things they have going on throughout the weekend. So it starts Friday at 11:30, Saturday as well, and then, so there's some things there, tug of war. Pretty sure we can't do it with 3 councillors. Well, you're the anchor then. So if we could just maybe let us know how many staff are wanting to attend. I mean, it is open by SOTO for all members of council, staff, but also the public. It's not closed, it's drug and alcohol free. And everybody's welcome, so it's not just for mayor and council or district staff, it's for all the residents in Tumble Ridge as well that would like to go down for it. It's an open request is my understanding. I've never attended, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm just wondering if we've heard from the Geopark or from West Soto about the Geopark trailer. I know we'd sent them an email and I believe pictures, and I'm just want to confirm if they've answered us and if they want the Geopark trailer there. Not sure if you know, Mr. Woodward?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have the Geopark trailer all lined up to go with one of the vehicles, but we're not too sure if, who the driver's going to be. We talked about that just the other day, so we're a little concerned. I would like to go to the Soto as well, but I don't think I'd be able to drive the vehicle with the trailer. I don't have that skill level.
Okay.
Perhaps you do. And if that's the case, well, then we don't have a problem. But, and I don't know how many other members of staff would like to go, but we'll find that out.
Okay.
And I'm not too sure of the setup that's going to be required. I've never had any dealings with the trailer before.
Yeah. So I guess I just want to confirm that Soto is expecting the trailer there. And if they are, my understanding is the Geopark will man it. We just need to pull it. And I'm 100% comfortable pulling it,
Okay?
but we don't man it. My understanding is Geopark staff. So I just need confirmation on that from the Geopark to make sure they're manning it. Because my understanding is it will be, once it's parked, you won't be able to move it. So it'll have to stay there the whole weekend.
Right, okay. I'll find, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll check with the Geopark staff.
Thank you. Councillor Julik?
So if I want to come on Sunday, I can still do that to the Pemmican Days? Because they look like fun. Even Sunday looks like some fun competition events, but somebody will have to like register me because it says you have to register on Friday.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's what I said. Like, I understand the medical one is for 2 days, and then there's obviously the extra Sunday for Pemmican Days. Yeah, if you want to come Sunday, we just need to know because we have to register Friday night.
Okay, yeah, I would like to come on Sunday.
Is staff writing this list so we know, because there's costs, so we just need to make sure. I'm not sure how the costs are covered. I guess that's a question of staff. Is that, like, to me, I'm not sure if this is covered under the district or if this is covered personally. To me, we're being invited by Soto as a council, but, okay. Can anybody also, Councillor Nober and Councillor Hoffman, or do you plan on attending on Sunday on Pemmican Days? Yes?
I'd like to attend on Saturday. I'm really getting excited about this tug of war. I think with Councillor Hoffman, myself, Jay Bradley. Oh, we got, and I mean, Gerald, we got a team.
Okay.
What about
We got a
me?
team.
Yeah, Councillor Guy. So you're only going to the conference Friday then?
So
The medical one?
My thoughts is
Yeah.
there's the medical conference Friday evening. I'll stay here for that. Saturday, I'll go to Pemmicans during the day and come back for the evening social event of the pig roast. So that's the evening. So I'll probably try and skip out at that point. So.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Clickash, are you going to be able to attend either of those events?
Yeah, I'll go to the Pemmican and also the Westmo.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't talked about Westmo yet, so, okay, we'll know you're going there. So I guess the best thing to do is just email staff with the dates you're going, so we know who's going to be there, so that we can register people on the Friday. Is that good with staff, Mr. Woodward?
Yep, that'd be fine, yes. My EA advised me that the Geopark staff have confirmed that they will be there, but only for the Saturday, for the setup. So, and the takedown, and so when we come back, then we'll be taking the trailer back on Sunday.
Okay. Can we reach out to Geopark? I don't know if I need to put a motion on the floor. What are we, a special meeting, right? Yeah. Put a motion on the floor. That staff reach out to the Geopark to find out what the concern is for staffing constraints for Friday, July 7th and for Sunday, July 9th.
Okay.
And if there needs to be assistance covered by the district. Can I get a seconder on the motion? Councilor Norbury, discussion? So I'll make a comment why I asked that, because my concern is we're gonna have a trailer down there parked on a Friday, because it has to be down there Friday morning for where they're gonna locate it. And then there's lots of children and youth there, and adults, visitors, that this trailer will not be open for on Friday. Maybe some people only attend Friday. And then same thing on Saturdays, at least it'll be used on Saturday, but again, I would have that concern on Sunday. Councillor Julik, you're unavailable for Friday and Saturday, but you might not be the only person that just only attends on the Sunday. And I think, you know, the idea of this trailer that was funded in regards to grants and partnerships and all that, I think we just need to, you know, if they have some constraints, is there a way of us assisting that?
Okay.
That's why I put the motion on the floor. Any more discussion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, so I think for the medical conference and for Pemmican Days, if council can just email staff, who do you want us to email, Mr. Woodward?
Sorry, say again, Mr. Mayor?
For council to email for what days were available for Soto's Pemmican Days or for the medical conference, who would you like us to email our dates?
Right, thank you. Yes.
No, who?
Who?
Do we email you, or would you like us to email Ms. Torval? Who would you like us to send a list of what days were available?
Send it to Ms. Curry, if you would.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Okay, so if council can do that, just so we know what days people are going to be there and we can pre-register. And if there's something you do not want to take in, please advise, like, you know, Soto's Got Talent, I'm probably not going to make that one. Council Norbury, I think you would make that one there. You would, yeah, you should do that one. Endurance race, probably not going to be my favorite one, but. Westmo Days is on July 28th, 29th, and 30th. Same thing, drug and alcohol free. I know the Geopark trailer is going. I'm concerned, do we have the same concern for Westmo Days with the Geopark trailer? Mr. Woodward.
We'll follow up with that, Mr. Mayor, and we'll make sure that we'll either provide them with assistance to do that, or we'll find out what their requirements are.
Okay, thank you. So if council can just email staff in regards to if you're available those days or what days you'd be available for. Westmo will have more information coming in regards to some of the games they play. And I lost my sheet or where I'm at.
Where's the Westmont?
Perfect. Okay, any notice of motions? It's kind of weird that's on a special meeting, but councilor's business. I'm just going to mention one thing quickly, and that was in regards to the fires. I met with Bob Zimmer on Friday, myself, Ms. Torval, Mr. Curry, and Mr. Woodward. Just a quick talk. He came up just to make sure that we know we had support from federal. Not that it was in support of dollars, but support from himself. We just talked about things in general, and then, you know, there were some asks, you know, again, we asked about in regards to making sure, in regards to fire mitigation and stuff like that, the federal government supports the provincial government with funds to assist with fire mitigation. So that's pretty much it. I'll give more of an update at the regular council meeting. Question and answer period. Mr. Woodward, is there any emailed questions?
Not at this point, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Resolution to closed. Okay, the June 21st, 2023 special council meeting be closed to the public according to section 91K to permit discussion about negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal services that are their preliminary stages, and that in the view of council could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality if they were held in public. Seconder. Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Carried. 5-minute recess. And I forgot,